Sam Vaughn for Sam's Sports Report and Sam's Mental Health Day. In this video coming up, you'll see a student school in many ways along the way. Some learning differences that played a part of him struggling in school. He said he always felt defeated. He said he would always see the F on the paper and see that defines him. Here's Josh Bradley in the story. To start off the video, Bradley talks about the disability defeating him. Bradley also talks about Yellowstone, loving the animals. He'd wonder what he had done to himself. Brandon's story felt he was different. His family had an awesome vacations. Bradley did. He felt like he could not focus. He felt like he was different. He got put in special needs classes. Bradley also knew the difference. He said he didn't feel different, but he knew he was different. Bradley, with the doctor, asked questions, a bunch of questions. That's where he was diagnosed with auto processing disorder. The cause of the condition is unknown. It may be linked to ear infections or delays or nervous or system growth or none of those at all. Other risk factors, head injuries, is often linked to learning problems. Other adults or hearing loss often have symptoms included having trouble understanding belong said and noises, following directions, and telling the differences between words and noises and sounds. That is really what it is. Not really hearing in my mind, and probably what he was diagnosed with. Systems that include trouble understanding, set in noisy places and following directions and telling them the difference between words and sounds and the same. Usually has nothing to do with a hearing problem. Bradley thought it was him, the disorder. He felt more looked down upon. He asked, "Who am I?" Kid calling him a failure and a loser, and when he took the test, he fails. That hit because he thought he was pathetic. "I am kind of a loser," he said. He would fail and feel defeated after the test, as we said. He would see the F and see that's who he is. He said in high school, you let him pass even though he didn't think he should. He viewed the graduates, but he didn't really succeed. He graduated. Disq school is where God thinks helps through school. He says, because Jesus loves me, he is with me, victorious. Because Jesus Christ is with him, this is how it all changed. A little too gaudy for me, but we'll go ahead and read it through. And every time he wakes up, he believes in Jesus is with him. He focuses on what a man thinks about his or her success, about his success. How many kids have felt like he had succeeded? The best at all times in his life. With this short story, he felt frustrated because he didn't know what else to do. It is. He said it's like blocking him. He didn't know what it was. When he realized the relationship with Jesus, it helped. He said it changed with God throughout him. He is a great Lord would love him. That he would call the children of God, who he says made a positive change on his life. That God, he was a child of God, and that's where he belongs. He says if a kid is struggling with a learning disability, feels defeated, don't listen to defeat, don't listen to the bullies. Tell yourself, he says, you need to listen to what Jesus says. And that he loves you. He believes he has it belongs to him. It's been so hard to tell him that. He believes Jesus is with him and his best friend. He wakes up every morning, goes to school, that he knows Jesus is with him. That, he says, is victorious. Victorious. He walks victorious. If someone you know is struggling with a mental health issue or surrounding mental health disorder, please call 1-800-273-8255. This is Sam Vaughn for Sam's Mental Health Day.
Like, I always would feel defeated after a test because I was like, that's my identity. You know, I would look at that F, that big old F on my paper, and I would see that and be like, that's who I am. My name is Josh Brandon. Hear my story. When I was a kid, I went with my family to Yellowstone, and I loved animals. So we'd be driving along, and we'd see this huge moose on the right side of our car, and I'd be like, dude, that is amazing. And I was the only boy out of 3 sisters, so I felt like, you know, I kind of had to impress them, you know? So I just kind of go all at it, you know? I just like, this 7-year-old Josh climbing up this mountain next to his big old dad. You know, my dad was a pretty big guy. And I'd just be exhausted, man. I'd be crying because I was like, what have I done to myself? So even though like me and my family were like really tight, I felt like I was different. You know, we'd have all these awesome vacations. But then I would be at school and, you know, my family wasn't there. It was me and my big old class of 20 students and my teacher. And I felt like I just couldn't focus. You know, the teacher would be speaking and I couldn't process what she was saying. It would take me longer. And I just felt like I was different from the other kids. But when the teacher would like write something on the board, I'd be like, dang, like I got that, like boom, right away. Like that makes sense to me. But then we would go, and then pretty soon I was like put in like a smaller class. I think it was like a special needs class. But at the time I didn't know that. And it was like me and 3 students, and I just felt weird. You know, I just kind of felt like, man, I don't feel like I'm different, but I feel like people think I'm different. So I'm sitting in the doctor's office, my mom's sitting next to me, and the doctor is looking at me and asking me a bunch of questions that are pretty weird questions. I'm like, what is this about? You know, I feel kind of weird. I have no idea who the heck you are. And they're just like, okay, you're diagnosed with auditory processing disorder. And that was it. You know, and they started telling me like, this is what it is, this is what it's to be expected. And it almost felt like they were kind of telling me like, this is kind of who you are. And I was like, man, I don't feel like that is who I am. I feel like there's way more to me than this disorder. And I felt like I was learning through like books. I felt like, man, I'm getting this. As high school came, like I started feeling more dumb. Especially because I went to a really religious school. I felt like I was more looked down upon, and I was like, who am I? Like, what is going on? And it was so frustrating. And there's this guy that was sitting next to me, he was a new student, and just throughout the day, like he started calling me pathetic and just started calling me a loser. And, you know, I would take a test and I'd fail. And then what he said is like, that really like, that hit me. Cause I was like, man, I am pretty pathetic. You know, I am kind of a loser. And dude, that would just bring me down. Like I always would feel defeated after a test cause I was like, that's my identity. You know, I would look at that F, that big old F on my paper, and I would see that and be like, that's who I am. It was just so hard for me. You know, I graduated my senior year, not even like, they just let me pass, even though I really shouldn't have. For some reason, that even hurt me a lot too, because it's like, I didn't really work for it then. You know, I was graduating knowing that I didn't really succeed. After high school, I learned a lot more about myself by going through a discipleship school for 8 months. My life started to change from always feeling defeated, knowing that because I am loved by Jesus, because he is.
After a 2-hour rain delay and the Royals were down 1-0, but Brady Singer was pitching well,